Water was more valuable than ammunition. Every well, every stream, every canteen could decide whether men survived another day. Trust disappeared long before supplies did, and no stranger arrived without suspicion. Every unknown face could be a scout, a deserter, or the beginning of another deadly attack. Behind every battle stood men who fought with pencils instead of rifles, planning routes, recording losses, and preparing the decisions that would soon cost lives. Every line drawn on paper represented real ground, real danger, and soldiers who would soon march directly into uncertainty. The battlefield offered only one narrow approach. The defenders held the advantage, protected by stone, patience, and precious water. Plans changed with every report. Supplies were limited, time was running short, and hesitation could be just as deadly as enemy fire. The older generation believed victory belonged to persistence. The younger generation wondered whether endless fighting was worth the price. Even those weakened by illness refused to remain behind. Duty demanded sacrifice, regardless of strength or health. Every mile forward increased the danger. The convoy carried more than supplies. It carried the only chance of continuing the campaign. Without warning, the silence shattered. The waiting was over, and every man understood that survival now depended on discipline, courage, and the next decision made under fire. War erased the line between soldier and civilian. Every traveler became a suspect, and every meeting carried the possibility of violence. The first warning lasted only seconds. Training replaced conversation as every defender moved instinctively toward the nearest rifle. The opening exchange was brief but brutal. Every exposed movement invited enemy fire across the narrow valley. Survival demanded that everyone contribute. In desperate moments, civilians carried the same burden as trained soldiers. Childhood disappeared wherever war arrived. Even the youngest learned that courage sometimes meant simply helping others survive. Every rock became protection. Every step forward was measured against the risk of never taking another. The defenders knew they were being surrounded. Yet retreat offered no safety, only another direction from which bullets could arrive. Silence after battle rarely brought relief. It simply gave both sides time to count losses and prepare for another attack. Water meant life. As long as the well remained in friendly hands, hope still existed inside the battered defenses. For one brief evening, food replaced gunfire. In the middle of conflict, ordinary acts of kindness reminded everyone what they were still fighting to protect. The battlefield claimed leaders as quickly as ordinary soldiers. Rank offered no protection against bullets, exhaustion, or the relentless cost of command. As casualties mounted, disagreement replaced confidence. Some believed survival demanded retreat, while others refused to surrender ground already paid for in blood. Leadership changed hands without ceremony. In war, authority often belonged to whoever still possessed the strength and the will to give orders. Not every order inspired confidence. Sometimes obedience came from necessity rather than belief. Another assault was planned before the previous wounds had healed. Fatigue no longer mattered. Only the next objective remained. Control of weapons meant control of men. Trust became another casualty as authority tightened its grip over the exhausted unit. Promises of reward offered temporary comfort, but no amount of money could guarantee survival beyond the next battle. Every soldier weighed the same impossible choice: obey uncertain orders or risk everything by walking away. Night brought little comfort. Guards remained awake while others searched desperately for a few hours of restless sleep before dawn returned the fighting. Morning revealed the same battlefield, the same uncertainty, and the same quiet determination. The coming attack would test not only their strength, but their faith in the men leading them. Before another assault could begin, the men strengthened their defenses. Every shovel of earth offered a small chance of surviving the coming battle. Strong defenses were built one sandbag at a time. In war, preparation often meant the difference between life and death. Maps could never reveal fear, confusion, or courage. Those details would only appear once the battle truly began. While others rested, the sentries remained awake. One careless moment during the night could destroy an entire company before sunrise. Letters carried voices from another world, a peaceful world many feared they might never see again. The battle paused only long enough for medics to fight a different war, one against pain, infection, and fading hope. Victory depended as much on supplies as courage. Every crate delivered meant another chance to continue the fight. The inspection required few words. Every man already understood the risks waiting beyond the next ridge. The fog concealed both danger and opportunity. Each careful step forward could uncover either victory or disaster. As the patrol vanished into the haze, those left behind could do nothing except wait and hope that familiar faces would return when the smoke finally cleared.
Every drop of water carried the promise of another day. Before the rifles spoke again, survival began with something as simple as a full canteen. The battlefield never stayed quiet for long. Between attacks, every minute was spent rebuilding what the last bombardment had destroyed. Each orders arrived with little explanation. The men had learned not to question where they were going only when they would leave. The advance began without celebration. Every step carried equal measures of duty, fear, and determination. The fighting returned with relentless force. Across the shattered landscape, courage was measured one careful movement at a time. Even amid relentless combat, someone always turned back to save another life. Compassion survived where almost everything else had been destroyed. Victory never looked glorious. It looked like tired faces, arching bodies, and a few precious minutes without incoming fire. Simple comforts became priceless. A warm drink and shared silence reminded the men that humanity still existed beyond the battlefield. The cost of every campaign was written not only in reports, but in rows of temporary graves where comrades were remembered without speeches. Battle had ended, but the war continued. Those who remained marched forward carrying memories that would last far longer than the echoes of gunfire. Before another march could begin, every weapon had to be cleaned. Survival often depended on a rifle working perfectly when everything else had failed. The front line was rebuilt every morning. Defensive walls were temporary, but determination remained constant. Communication meant survival. A single message delivered too late could change the fate of an entire company. The battlefield revealed little. Every movement beyond the horizon demanded patience before action. Each crossing carried new uncertainty. Behind termly familiar danger, Erhit waited an unknown battlefield. For a few quiet minutes, warm food restored strength that sleep no longer could. The wounded continued their own difficult journey, fighting not the enemy, but pain and uncertainty. For air-abandoned position carried silent reminders of those who had fought there only hours before. Nature showed no preference between armies. Rain covered victory and defeat with equal interference. The battle was over, but its memories would endure long after the smoke had faded. Those who survived carried more than their weapons. They carried the weight of lost comrades, impossible choices, and the quiet determination to keep moving forward, one uncertain step at a time.